Alright, part 2 of this An Elastephantastic Adventure developer commentary thing I'm doing, whatever it is. Yeah, we've returned back to the start room, which is nice and fun. I always like when the level geometry comes back around on itself, or you end up somewhere familiar. It's always fun. I always like that in like Half-Life and such. That would be quite a common thing. Like you go through a bunch of rooms and then you'd be on like the balcony of a room that you've been through before. I don't know, it just helps tie things together nicely. It always feels good. Okay, so the difference obviously since last time we were in this space though is that I'm now facing rightwards and therefore I can move this block this way. It was fun to come up with a mechanism because I remember I knew I wanted to come back to the start room, but I didn't know like what mechanism I would use in order to have a puzzle in the start room that is only solvable at the time that you come back, and then to come across something that's this simple. It's just like, well, you have to be coming in a certain direction. It's just very satisfying. Anyway, so this isn't a particularly difficult puzzle. This is just what connects us across to the next bit. I guess it's kind of fun that you have to. I think actually there's technically two things you can do here, right? You can either push that down. I think my intended solution is to push it to the right. Fortunately, it works either way. I did not notice the second way, which is push it down to that space. But either way works. It's not an issue. But it could have been an issue because this area that I'm standing in is relevant for the next puzzle. But fortunately, it just happens to work out fine in both cases. I was lucky there. I guess one thing I haven't spoken about yet, because I'm just sort of going through each puzzle one at a time. I guess okay. So one more thing about this puzzle is that this is the first instance of like the checkerboard pattern and pushing a multi-block across a checkerboard pattern. By which I mean these two spaces. Like there's a discontinuity here between the land, but because there's a multi-block, because it's a multi-block, you can push it over it still. There's like the next puzzle explores this as well. There's an early level in Steven's Sausage Roll that explores this as well. Is it Happy Pool? I think that's one of the level names. I can't remember if it's the one I'm thinking of. But there's like a level where there's like a ring of land around the grills that are in the middle. And you have to, basically there's no land connecting to the grills, but because the sausages are 2 spaces long, you can push it across the gap. So they're sort of exploring a similar space here. But yeah, I was going to say, so one thing I haven't talked about since I'm just going through each puzzle one at a time is like how I put it together. Because I did all the puzzles as separate individual levels. I didn't, if you go back and look at my stream, like this only became one world at the very end of the process. I did that all on the last day, in fact. I think I did all the graphics and the making it one world on the last day. And that was just a case of like I had my puzzles. Some of them I didn't yet have. And I just I put one puzzle in. So I would have put like this first puzzle in. And then I knew I needed another puzzle. And maybe I had a puzzle available that fit, or I didn't. If I didn't, I would like just add it in the overworld, like as part of the big single level. But if I had one already, I would like copy it and then paste it into the world. Sometimes that meant like rotating them, flipping them, just so that they would connect up in a nice way. But I would just I'd make it so that one level led into the next in a nice kind of organic looking way. And then because I roughly knew I wanted to come back to the start after that big puzzle on the left, this puzzle that I did over here. So I sort of just needed to form some kind of shape that would, at the right time, lead back to here. I just sort of started doing it and adjusted spacing if I needed to, and it just happened to work out quite well. I could have always just added extra puzzles if I needed to at any point. To be honest, like this puzzle that I'm about to walk into right now, I think maybe at first I wanted that to be before coming back to the start, because it's like the last of the kind of simple movement puzzles before we get to the log mechanic. But like, yeah, it was fine. I just put it after we've gone through the start area. Who cares? Also, it leads to a fun little trick in a second. The other thing I want to say is that, yeah, so when I was putting it together, I didn't have all of the puzzles, and just the kind of the process of designing the puzzles in the first place. The way I find it often works for me is that I'll have like some particular idea about a puzzle. Like one of them would have been about this big puzzle over here about trading resources, right? And then also being able to teach that multi-blocks can go over water. And then I'll have had another idea like this one here, which was about like stretching over water and pulling a block back. But I didn't come up with these in order. I kind of I end up with a bunch of levels and I'm like, well, that one's clearly more complicated than that one, or it's like an idea that builds off of some earlier one. And then I think, like, what could go in between it? I kind of bisect the level structure in a way. Like, so I'm pretty sure I did not design this bit or the one to the top left of me right now until like pretty much right before I was about to put it together. I was like, well, I need some basic block pushing things. And then I made one of them and I was like, well, maybe I need an even more basic one than that, or maybe I need a slightly more complicated one that teaches this little extra bit on top of what we've already done. So yeah, that's just kind of how I came up with what the levels should be. And then I think that just ends up naturally giving you a kind of organic feeling progression from one puzzle to the next. Anyway, so this one's got a fun trick in it. So this is again exploring discontinuous land, particularly here where there's literally, they're not even connected diagonally, but this has to get pushed over it at some point. Or does it? I think it gets pushed down, to be honest, so maybe not. But there's a special trick here, which I don't think was initially my plan for this puzzle. The puzzle was just going to be about pushing this over the like checkerboard pattern. But the trick is, so I want to exit out. Oh, okay, I hit the checkpoint going backwards, which is slightly annoying. I want to go out that space on the right, but obviously I can't push this like this. And once it's there, I can't push it down either. Even if I could, I wouldn't be able to lift it back up again and be against the trees. In fact, part of me is like, maybe I should have not put these trees along the bottom because I can't push it down anyway. So it would have been a bit more of a, rather than giving you two reasons to not push this down, just giving you one. Whatever. So obviously you have to push it some other way. I can't just push straight to the right, so I'll take it over the top. I mean, okay, you could consider also bring it down and then from here lifting it upwards. Although you can't, because you can't get into the space to lift it upwards. Okay, let's just reset. Let's take it over the top. The problem is, in order to... So I can lift it over this land, which is nice and fun. But I can't push it to the left anymore, it's just going to fall in there. So I'm going to have to lift it back up, put it this way. The problem is, how do I get it down onto any of this checkerboard pattern at any point? Like, I can never actually get around it, the top of it, right? It's always in the way. So the trick I've done in this puzzle, which, like, it's always fun to do a trick like this, is play with the player's expectations of what the bounds of the puzzle are, which is something you can do in an open world puzzle game because, you know, there really are no boundaries between the puzzles. You can, any boundaries that the player thinks of as boundaries are purely in their head, and you can play with that psychology of like, well, this is the puzzle. Clearly the puzzle ends here at these trees and goes down to the bottom. But to like kind of trick the player and go, actually, in this case, you have to take the thing out of the puzzle and then bring it back in order to push it further down. Ta-da! I don't know, that's just really fun. And then you can get into a position you otherwise could not have got it into. And then it's just a case of pushing it over to go around to this bit again, push it down, and then push it to the right. Probably one thing that would be good is if there was some way of seeing what land is currently under the crate. Because at that point I wasn't even sure. Was there one at the top or was there one at the bottom? I don't know how to do that in a way that would feel right though. Well, I guess one way you could do it is by having, like, in the water next to land, you could have a little kind of like a darker line where maybe the water is a bit less shallow or something. Just around the edge of it. Anyway, okay. Second half of the game, the proper second half. This was a fun little thing. I knew I wanted to do this at some point where I'd have a... What I was originally going to do is just have a crossroad. In fact, that does come up later, but that's what this was going to be originally, was just a crossroad, a path going through from left to right, and a path going from top to bottom. And because you're 2 spaces tall, you can't turn around that crossroad. You could only go across it or top to bottom. In this case, what I ended up doing was using this double corner space again, like this this pattern of... Basically, if I come in backwards, I'm stuck against this wall. I can't get into that other row. So that log up there, I'm just going to have to leave for now. But I can keep going this way. And again, there's another column here that I can't get into. I'm just forced to go through this way. But we'll come back to that later. Okay, logs, which so far just seem to behave like the other things, right? Bunch of trees on here just to stop me rotating. But while keeping the river looking like a river. I'll talk a bit more about the river in a second, because when I started designing this bit, I was really focusing about the structure of the river and such. Anyway, okay, here's the crossroad. Anyway, oh, some grippy logs. Press X to reach for them. That was a rushed message. I guess it conveys what it needs to. But yeah, here's the crossroad idea as well. Like, I can't go left and right, but if I were on the right, I'd be able to go to the left. Why would I want to? I guess we'll see. So, X to reach logs, and this is the main mechanic of the game that I spent probably 2/3 of the jam implementing. Like, just getting this mechanic to work was the vast majority of the time, without any puzzles designed, without doing any of the overall, without doing any graphics, no sound, nothing. It was just doing this. Whee! Which is great. Like, this is the whole thing I wanted to do. I can reach out with my trunk and I can bring things back. And so there's a thing of, you can reach out and then you can move afterwards and leave a weird trail. And then your trunk will pull that for as long as it can and then disconnect. This is not the right way of doing this though. So let's do it properly. Basically, I just want to pull onto it. So in this case, I didn't want to do anything particularly fancy. The first technique is just, can you grab a log and bring it over? And once you have, you can cross over this river. So the river, basically I implemented this. I was like, oh, it'll be fun. What's the natural thing? Why would I want to reach to grab a log over some distance? Well, if there's water in the way, well, if it's across a chasm of some sort, a chasm? Yeah, a river of some sort. And I was like, well, then the natural thing is that then that log can be used to cross the river. That'd be fun. And then I just had this idea. Well, that was like, okay, but now I'm on the other side of the river, and so the next thing I want to grab is going to be back on the side that I was just on, right? And I realized this was going to result in this kind of zigzaggy helix pattern, like crisscrossing over the river over and over. And as soon as I had that idea, I was like, okay, if I'm doing that, what I've got to do is zigzag up the river and then zigzag back down the river, like crisscrossing over my own path. So this whole thing was designed to like make that work. As far as I remember, I designed all of this river section as one level. I didn't do them individually. Okay, so this one, I have to grab this log, of course, and put it in that space there. Obviously, you can just drop it in the water, but it's not useful. So this is teaching the very basics of grabbing and then rotating. Do I want to do that? Yes, because if I just grab and pull, basically there's not enough space, so I have to rotate and then then there's space for it to land on the ground. Okay, I had to change a bunch of stuff here at some point. I guess I'll talk about that. I guess I'll talk about it now, actually. Okay, so I have to come in here backwards. Problem I had at one point, like when I first released it, it was that it was possible to skip stuff at this stage. Like, it was possible to turn right to this point. There was no tree there, and then somehow get onto that log and cross the river from here over that log to the left there. But actually, you're supposed to go up this way first. And so people who did that skipped out this entire section up at the top of the river. I think in most cases it didn't break the game. It just meant it was more confusing because you were doing stuff. You weren't going along the path that I'd intended you to go along, so things I'd put in the game in order to lead you to make certain conclusions would not be as apparent because now they're in a mess of stuff that wasn't supposed to happen. But anyway, so what the purpose of this puzzle was supposed to be is the first case of, well, I can't just grab it and pull it over. Even if I turn, I can't do it. I can stand on it, but that's all. I had to do so much careful stuff because later on you'll see that if I'm standing on a log and I can grab another log, there are problems. So I had to be very careful to make sure that if this is in the water, you can stand on that. You cannot grab another log. There's a lot of that to do. But anyway, so you can't do that. But then the trick here is that you first have to pull it this way, and then you can pull it that way. Which way do I want to go? I think I want to go the other way and do this. Yeah, there we go. What do I do here? How do I do this bit? Oh, do I do that? Yes. So I can cross over here, and then I can grab this 4 long log and put it in the water, and I can cross over. So that's the top of the river section, if I can do this correctly. There we go. So that's the proper way of coming over. Also, people wouldn't... The problem with skipping is that if you then walked up here and hit that checkpoint after you've done some bad stuff, then you could be in a pretty bad situation where like things are stuck and you can't reset back. Yeah. Just a random implementation note. You know, some of the logs are horizontal, some of them are vertical. In the level editor, the way that in the game, the way I've implemented that is that each part of a log is like there's no separate marker for like vertical or horizontal log. I've just got the same, like in PuzzleScript, use letters to mark out the level. Just use the same letter for every bit of the log, and then I just put a symbol next to the log. So if that symbol is next to the log, it turns it into a vertical log, or it turns it into a horizontal log. And then if there's... So here I've made them horizontal logs, and if there's 2 horizontal logs that are next to each other, they get joined together by a rope in order to make it like visually make sense. Because if that rope wasn't there, or whatever it is, some kind of tape rope thing, if that rope wasn't there, then you'd expect only the small log to move in that case. So I had to do a bunch of fun things to make that look visually sensible. Okay, so this bit, what is the point of this bit? Oh, okay, so I think I've done it. But the point is to realize at this point that... Wait, is it at this point? Am I getting confused? What do I do when? Right, okay, so you could get confused about this bit, which, like I am, and not really what to do with it. Let's just leave it there for now. But the thing you're supposed to realize that this was kind of difficult because that's only just visible when you come down to this spot. I kind of wish it was more visible and more apparent, but oh well. But this is the part where you're supposed to realize that when you do this, you get pulled over the water because the log can't move. So I had to carefully set up all the other situations so that didn't happen, so it would happen here. But if you come over here and do all this, you can be like, what am I supposed to do? There's like nothing to do here. Where am I supposed to go next? I also thought it was fun that we're standing in the place where the log was. I guess we've done that before as well. But like we're standing in the place that was just the place that the log that we grab the log from. It's fun to like reuse part of the world for that. So the problem is that we need somewhere to go. Like, we're back at that crossroads. Oh yeah, there's that little house there. That's so bad, but whatever, it works. But yeah, there's like nothing to do here. I can just like walk out and whatever. So this is probably part of the game where people maybe have to be a bit more like, okay, I need to start thinking about things I could do here. So I'm going to reset back to here. Because what you have to realize is that you actually want to land. I guess what I'm hoping happens is that people see that raft on the left with the 2 bits of rope around it, like the bottom left of the screen right now. I can just point to it. There we go. And realize, well, I need to get into this space at some point. Therefore, I need to land on here. And so then this is about setting up a way of landing on this space. I'm hoping that's the way people come to that conclusion. Let's do this, do that. I think that's right. No, that's not right, is it? In fact, that's specifically, I set this up to specifically not be right, because if you do this, let's just do it. Do this. There needs to be a better animation for this, but I come down here and try and grab that. My legs are now going to be over the water, and I sink. People have thought that was a glitch. I mean, I guess it's not a glitch. It's just not animated properly, but you're sinking there. Oh gosh, the game really chugs when you're doing that stuff. Anyway, so let's go back over. Whoop, there we go. So what you actually want to do is put down to this space. There we go. So it has to be hooked against something. Oh, very slow. Let's take this with us because we are going to need it. I'll leave it there for now before I explain what's happening next. Now I can grab that and I'll land on the land. Yay! Which is what land's for. That's why they call it land. So you can land there. Okay, so now I've got this raft. So my next hope is that people are like, okay, what do I do with this? Like, there's clearly nothing else you could do with that. You can't take it back up the corridor. You can only push it in the water there. So clearly I have to do something. There's got to be something I can grab and do something with. What about that log we haven't used yet that's down there? So I guess this is quite a leap, but I guess it's one of the more challenging puzzles in the game. So quite a leap. It's literally quite a leap. Is you have to use this log, leave it there, hanging out. Just hanging out over there. Turn around. I always made that mistake. Then you discover this. Although I did it wrong. But yeah, so if you pull on a log while standing on a raft, you and the raft go with it. Oh my gosh, this was so complicated to implement. It was the worst. But like right now, I've obviously made a mistake because I think there are some bugs here. People told me that if you do stuff like this, odd stuff happens. It's okay. Oh, that's not okay. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Yeah, okay. There's some stuff I didn't test properly here. Let's not do that though. What you're actually supposed to do is make sure you come all the way up to that so we can go left along this river. And you'll notice this is right. This river is right at the start of the game. I'll go over to it. Oop, I need to go down to the next row. There we go. This bit of the river is right at the start of the game. It's the first bit of water that was like teaching you about, oh, your trunk can go over the water. And I just liked that, like these 2 completely different parts of the game connect up in this way, in a way that you can't walk between them, but like the kind of the structure of the world, it's just naturally they feel like they're one and the same place. I'm in that first area again. Anyway, so now we're over here. I remember I originally had a bug where you could like go down that left corridor where the log is, but I put this tree that's above the log in place to stop that. And then okay, so now we're over here. Okay, now the fun thing is we're back in this section where I like had carefully constructed it so that you could only be in the right-hand column of each of these double corner situations, but now we're in the left-hand column. Like, we're not in this column, we're in this column, which means when we go backwards through here, we're now in this column, which is fun. And we can't like exit out into this level because we're facing the wrong direction to do it, but we can go to this column and come down this way, which we couldn't do before. So that was a fun little crisscross thing to do as well. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun doing this. So then this is a bit where you're forced to like do a more complicated log maneuver. It's not particularly complicated though. If you do that though, it's wrong. You can't get around that corner, so you have to then do this to get it into that column. Then we can go this way. Okay, final puzzle of the game. Like I said, I think this is one of the earlier puzzles I designed. Maybe this might have been the first puzzle I designed of ones that involve pushing multi. Yeah, okay, I think that's what it was. It was the first multi-block puzzle I designed. Because basically I started thinking about multi-blocks. I was like, what's the interesting thing about multi-blocks? It's that they can cross water. Like, there doesn't have to be continuous land. And so I immediately went to this puzzle, which requires pretty complex pushing across water. But this is the final one. One of the things I'm a bit unhappy with is that. So this is the last puzzle, but it doesn't involve any of the logs. So we're just in a cool area where you're like pulling the logs here and there. But then suddenly the last puzzle doesn't involve that. But I kind of had to put this here just because it's easily the most difficult puzzle. But I've had people say it's a very satisfying puzzle, so I'm glad. Because like, it is like, I'm pretty certain there's only one way to do it. And it's just nice to go step by step and figure out exactly what the stages of it are. So yeah, we have these two weird shaped blocks. Now, can I remember what you do? That's a good question. Can I remember at all what to do? Oh gosh, this could be a problem. So I have to take them both below. I remember that much. Which I can do by pushing you like this. You can't get them through this space. So this space was designed to not allow you to take the thing through. Am I doing this wrong? I might be doing this wrong. Is it the vertical shape I take? I've totally forgotten. And it's weird because obviously I've always approached this with just like, I know how to solve it. Because like, obviously I can push you down there. Yeah, and then I use this as a little lever to like nudge it around that corner. Because I think I can take the L shape around that bend. Is that right? I think that's right. So you can go there. I can push you. Do I want to push you further? No, because you'll sink. This is not right then, is it? Or is it? Oh, do I push you down? I push you down and then... okay. And then to the right. Because this can stick out pretty far and still balance. And then it will balance on that bit of land and I can bring it back up. Oh, it's horrific. Oh no, I want to push it further, I think. Yes. Okay. So that is effectively down here. And there's no way of pushing that across any of these spaces. Or like this bit over here. So the way I want people to approach this puzzle is to actually think about the ending. Because like obviously I'm just going, oh, I need to take them both down to the bottom, but how would you know that? Well, you have to think about how this ending is going to work. And there's only one place where the two pieces could go that make a valid path to the exit. As far as I'm aware. I believe that's right. And the way it's going to be... Well, how is it going to be? I've totally forgotten. So, I believe the L shape goes there, and then the 3 tall one goes 1, 2, 3. So it's L shape, 1, 2, 3, and we get to there. I think that's how it goes. But yeah, if you've reasoned about it, you can like see they can't go in any other way that would work. Or maybe there are formations where they could go like that, but how would you get them there in the first place? That's the complication. Okay, so then we have this down here. I'm pretty sure this is carefully designed such that you can't bring this down this way. Was that true? Oh yes, I can't push it any further. Although I can push it down. Did I carefully design this so this wouldn't work? I could push it to the left. I think that's the problem. You end up below it. And then once you're below it, you cannot get above it again to push it down. I'm pretty sure it's not possible to do this like this. I could bring it obviously one further down, but then to the left. No, same situation. Right, then what? I have to go above it. I'm pretty sure, yeah, this has to go kind of back and then around the corner, which I'll do now. This, and then we can recover this from this little bit that sticks out, which has a dual purpose for later, which is nice. It's always nice when some part of your puzzle requires, or like is needed for two different bits. Okay, push this down. Now we're above this, I can push it down without any issue. Okay, we can take both of these over here. Okay, now that they are both here, this is now all about getting these two pieces into the right places over here, which ends up requiring, I mean, this is one of the first ideas I had. What if I had to bring them both down and then get one of them back? So I kind of designed it all around that. That was, yeah, quite a complicated thing to sort out. So the first thing is to get the L shape into position. That's bad, let's not put you there. In fact, let's take you over. You under. Can't quite remember how to do this. But I want to push this L shape up this way, which is fine for now. I can push it even further. But now I have to start using this to help out, right? But that's going to fall. No, it's not going to fall. Let's land there. That's not what I want. Okay, so I can use this to pull this back down. I want to push you like this. And then again? No, because you'll fall. Okay, so then bring you out this way. I think that's it. And then from here, I take this back to the top and push that to the right using this from above. That's right. Okay. So this is where we reuse that bit that sticks out at the top side of the river. Because we push this onto that. It was fun to design this, like, because you'd think like there's this bit that sticks out at the bottom and the bit that sticks out at the top, but it's like a one-way. It's a one-way system for passing the long shape over. You can't push something down from the top to the bottom for whatever reason. Well, okay, it's kind of obvious what the reason is, because like the reason I can now I can push this far. The reason I can now recover it is because I can go round, push to the right and left, whereas the other direction, the trees would be in the way, right? But I do have to do this and go back. A little bit of tedium here, it's not too much of a problem. And that, then it's basically in a good position to be able to bring it back to the left. Show them that. There we go. Okay, then we've got you, and we can use you to nudge you. Yes. You back. And then recover you again. Don't go that far. Recover you again. Then I just like nudge you down, you're in position, push you there, and I go around. And we are done with the game. But yeah, slightly disappointing that like the last level doesn't involve the main mechanic, but it was the hardest level, so I sort of just had to do it. And yeah, if I go into that building, it is the end of the game. Yeah, I would really like to revisit this. I really enjoyed doing it, and the mechanic I think is really fun. I just need to make some like decisions around how early should the trunk mechanic come into things? Like one of the problems I had is that, oh yeah, I should definitely talk about this. I was originally not planning for there to be two types of blocks. It feels so like natural now that I don't know why I ever questioned it. But the kind of the purist in me was like, there should only be logs. Logs should be the only thing in the game, and I just have to make the puzzles work, like, and not be breakable by using the trunk too early. So yeah, I kind of went through a thing of like, I don't want to introduce the trunk straight away. I would like there to be some basic movement puzzles, but with logs being the like, imagine those early puzzles only had logs in them. They'd be so breakable with the trunk, right? So then it was like, well, do I have a bit like halfway through the game where suddenly you get the power to stretch your trunk? That also feels a bit not great. But then while I was streaming, Jack Lance was in the comments while I was like struggling with this. I was really struggling with it. Honestly, I kind of was like, I need to give up on this game. It's not going to work. It got to that point. I was pretty stressed for part of this. When I was like 2/3 in, and I'd only just like finished finished the main mechanic, and was still finding bugs. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I've I've messed up. I kind of just wanted to stop. But thankfully, I got over there, and thankfully, Jack Lance helped me with like going. It's actually okay to have two different types of block. It's kind of weird. Like at the time, I was like, "That's not okay. That would be it would it just wouldn't be neat and tidy. Like it probably helps that they're so visually distinct, like different. Because I think at first it was like, oh, what if there's a log, and then what if there's a gold log, and that's different or something, or like a log with sticky sap, and that's the one you can grab, or something like that. But it just felt kind of arbitrary. I guess that's what a Monsters Expedition has done with the. Oh, I shouldn't really talk about it, but yeah. Spoilers for a Monsters Expedition. I haven't said anything about it. Yeah, but yeah, Jack was like, just make them different, and I did it, and I'm very glad that I did because it basically unstuck me. I was like, okay, this is now much easier. I can have a bunch of intro puzzles that don't use the logs, and I can just introduce the logs later, and it was fine. It doesn't feel that weird, does it? I think anybody would even question it. They're just like, yeah, there's these two types of things. Yeah, that's totally fine. What else is there to say? I definitely bit off more than I could chew. I mean, I imagine I managed to chew it to some degree. But like, yeah, there's like so much I wanted to do more than this. Like, if I could, I would have had more puzzles after this that involved the sticky logs. Sticky logs? They're just the logs. And they would have been around this difficult. Like, I think ideally I would have had two more puzzles, both involving logs, but potentially also mixing them with the crates as well, whatever these are. And that would have been a better ending, I think. Also, this ending is just weird. Basically, because the theme was elephant in the room. I was like, I think somebody in the comments suggested it. The stream was like, "Oh, just go into a room." I was like, "Okay, that's what we'll do." Yeah, yeah. And I guess I've already said it, but like the beginning. How long should it be before the main mechanic is introduced? Like, because I watched Stephen Lavelle playing this game, who made Stephen's Sausage Roll and made puzzle scripts and yeah, so much stuff. And he only got to he only did the first half before the mechanic was introduced, and I was sort of like, this is why the mechanic has to come earlier, because people would just be like, oh, this is cool, I'll move on. Whereas I think had he seen the next mechanic, I think he would have enjoyed continuing because it's pretty fun, I think. And I imagine there were a few people who had that experience. it's kind of like the I won't say what it is, but the mechanic that gets introduced fairly early into Monsters Expedition. It's not straight away. There's probably about 20 minutes of game before that hits, 25 minutes, but it's early enough that you're not getting bored by the time you get to it. And I guess I hope people aren't bored with the early puzzles in this, but I guess they're not sufficiently different than doing Steven Sausage Roll puzzles, but it would feel wrong to not explore it at the same time, especially because it's stuff that Steven Sausage Roll jumped into something more complicated like immediately, and didn't explore like navigating a world with these movement mechanics. So that's kind of yet to be done. I mean, I guess I'm doing it here. So I didn't feel too bad exploring that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's different as well because there's like you're pushing crits into water to make paths. There's definitely a different feeling there, different goals for puzzles. But yeah, I just how early should it happen? Should it happen earlier? If it happens earlier, how do I avoid it feeling weird that I've introduced it, but then there's a bunch of tutorial-y puzzles again? Like the river part of this game is easily my favorite part. It was so fun to design, and I think it's so fun to play, and it just works out so well. Like it ended up very intricately interconnected in a satisfying way. I'm very happy with it. But it takes a while to get there. And I can't introduce the river right at the start of the game because then you haven't gone through the earlier puzzles. So yeah, something I'd have to think about if I continue this in any shape or form. As I mentioned at the start, this was based on the mechanic idea that I already had, and I adapted it to be elephant themed, so it wasn't going to be a trunk in my original idea. And that other idea has other things I could do with it. But then there's something kind of fun about it being an elephant with a trunk that extends. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'd have to make that decision as well. Do I stick with an elephant because it's silly and kind of eye-catching? But then there is like think about it from like a marketing perspective. Like what would people recognize, or like what would catch their eye? The other idea I had as well had something to it as well that I think would I don't want to talk too much about it, but the other like similar mechanic was similarly marketable, I guess you could say. Oh my gosh, implementing this like leaving a trail and then it pulling what you attach to in whatever direction you made. Of the stuff I implemented that doesn't even get used. Let me try and demonstrate. Actually, can I demonstrate? Does this work? Can I? Let me go back to. I can't really do it now, can I? Maybe I could demo it with that. Can I get back there? I can't get back to anything, can I? Everything's in the water. This is like mostly one way. I've never tried to traverse this backwards. Oh, go up here this way. There's no getting back. No, I'm stuck. If you attach to a... It's funny that you can go down this way from this column. I never thought about that. But you can't turn at the other end. Right. Yeah, this is so restricted. But okay, I can do this. No, it's just as bad. There's literally no way to transfer a column. I guess there's not. So I can't go through here. I wanted to get to that little log over there, but I don't think I can. So I think there's any way to do it. No, there's not. But yeah, okay, so if you grab onto a log and then leave a trail, spoilers for something that might come up if I revisit this. If you grab a log but don't pull it towards you, then leave a trail but go towards that log with your trail and then push the log, your trunk stays attached to it. And so you can manipulate the shape of your trunk from the front by pushing the thing around that you're attached to. And that works. It's implemented. It's just not used in any of the puzzles. So yeah, like I said, I spent like 2/3 of the time implementing the mechanics. And there are so many edge cases and it's horrible. But it ended up working. I'm happy with the result. Yeah, I was very pleased with what I ended up with, especially given that I was like almost giving up halfway through. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess if I was doing it properly, I'd have some music as well. Maybe or just like sounds. There's very few sounds in this. They don't even have walking sounds, which is a little bit weird. But maybe that's good because, like, yeah, I think a sound every time you step would be kind of annoying. Some games do it, I think. Anyway, I guess let's end it. Yeah, just really fun to do. I love doing this. I'm looking forward to the next Thinky Puzzle game jam. Because I don't have time to do lots of game jams. Occasionally, like, I should do Lud and Dare again. Because I've done them in the past. But yeah, I think just having like one game jam a year that I'm like, okay, I'll do this one game jam would be good. And probably the Thinky Puzzle game jam will be like a yearly thing. So I'll probably just keep doing that since it's the kind of game I'm interested in as well. Yeah, too much other stuff to do. This looks so out of place, but I guess that's good because it's identifiable as the ending. I think I've said everything I want to say. In which case, this is it. I shall see you for whatever like game I'm playing next, which will be a game I did not make. I don't know what it will be, but there'll be something. All right, cool. Let's go end the game. Thanks for playing. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.